Hi everybody, Russ from My Hammers 11. Hope you're all safe and well. Almost the new year, almost 2020 is out the window, hopefully soon. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing, hitting the bell icon so you're made aware anytime we put new content on. As always, we'd like to thank our channel sponsors, Untuckit. Today's guest, you see him on the West Ham way, obviously, hopefully won't be as long as Dennis, but it's Charles Johnson. Hi Charles, how are you, man?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. I'm good. Yeah, I'm definitely going to try and keep it below an hour, hopefully.
Well, hour is like the new norm now for us. It used to be like 30 minutes, 30, 40 minutes, and it's gradually increased, I think, as people have got more and more used to the format. And so yeah, now it's like an hour, so it's pretty much standard now. But how are you? Good Christmas, I hope.
Yeah, no, decent. It's just obviously been with the family for extended period of time now. So yeah, Christmas with them was been like I've spent the whole year with them, really. But yeah, no, it was really nice.
You have really, Charles, to be honest, haven't you?
Exactly.
Really, to be perfectly honest.
Exactly. But yeah, I've got younger brothers, so obviously it's lovely for them to kind of get presents in the morning and yeah, it was really nice and yeah, I'm looking forward, hopefully, to a much better 2021 for sure.
Yeah, but West Ham will keep us amused though, so that's okay.
Well, that's the funny thing is that no matter, I mean, this year's been pretty terrible by all standards, but from a West Ham standpoint, at least for this season, it's been all right. So
yeah. I mean, I thought it's funny when I think it was yesterday with Moisey when he's been interviewing with Kelly, and he said, it was a year into the day that he, or whatever it was, that he took over. How has your year been? I was thinking, well, to be honest, he's been self-isolating, and we've had coronavirus for almost that whole year. Not putting two and two together, David, but you know what I mean. It's like it's not really the best anniversary to have, to be fair. But to be honest, when someone put up the other day, Moisey and Pellegrini, and sort of the same period of time they were both in charge, and their sort of win ratio and points ratio, and obviously Pellegrini was slightly higher. But to be honest, I'm much more happy with David Moyes in charge than I'm with Pellegrini in charge, because he hasn't spent £200 million on players, has he? Really? So.
Yeah, I mean, Moyes. I mean, he's not a perfect manager. I think we all know that. There's certainly things that he can improve on, especially in-game management. We always go on about it on the West Ham way, but yeah, I mean, he's what he has brought is stability. I think throughout that whole team, and it's nice to see that. I think the players like playing for their manager, whereas with Pellegrini, you could never really tell what was going on behind the scenes, whether people respected him or whether people were fed up with him. I think Moyes is, he's kind of got together a really good backroom staff as well, a lot of experience behind the scenes. And yeah, I mean, the one thing, I mean, to be mid-table at Christmas and have a bit of stability for once, and in the way we're playing football, is just a nice bit of relief. And I think it's the first time that we felt relatively kind of safe in a Premier League season since the London Stadium move. But yeah, I mean, obviously, like I said, David Moyes is not a perfect manager, but I think he has grown on West Ham fans. And I think, at the end of the season, if he keeps us around the position that we're in, then he definitely deserves a new contract for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I think you're totally bang on what you said about having the backroom staff and stuff. I mean, he's been quite shrewd, I think, in terms of who he's brought in, and they seem to complement what he wants to achieve. And as you said, we've got a team now which, where before. I mean, we spoke about it before we started, like the Brighton game, for example, and even that Brighton game, we were still fighting. Do you know what I mean? And not, usually in previous regimes, so to speak, that Brighton game we would have lost 2-3-0. No worries, because we just.
I mean, absolutely, we've got this drive now. Even when we're losing games, I don't expect us to kind of capitulate. I expect us to at least give it a go. I mean, the greatest example of that was the Tottenham game. Who could have seen 3-0 down, last 10 minutes, we come back. I mean, it shows that the character is kind of growing amongst the team, and everyone wants to play for each other. And I just feel like with Pellegrini, I think, as a manager, his body of work is obviously impressive, but I just don't think he has kind of the drive that Moyes has to succeed. I mean, Moyes coming to us, basically was just in a complete rut in his career as a manager. And, to give him that opportunity, I think he was so grateful for it that, he said, right, I can't let this slip. I've got my chance back in the Premier League. I've got to show what I can do. And, to his credit, I think he's definitely kind of, brought himself back into contention as a certified Premier League manager. So yeah, I mean, you'll always hear me complaining about, team selections and things that he does wrong every week. But for the most part, I am happy with the progress that he's made with the team. I just hope that, it's an exponential improvement, or it's a gradual, continuous improvement, as opposed to kind of, sitting in 10th place every year. So, but I'm happy to sit in 10th place this season for sure after last year.
Exactly, that's what I'll take. I mean, I'll take a couple of those sort of Allardyce, Alan Kirbishley years just to have a bit of solidity with West Ham. Because you said it's
God.
Big
Sam having an interesting week as well, wasn't he? Flying.
Yeah, exactly. So it's, good old Big Sam. But it's funny because Jack, mate, he predicted a 5-0 on what's name's video the other day. It was quite funny, and he made sure that everyone knew about it. Bless him. But no, I think.
What game? Which game? The Leeds game.
Yeah, he called it. Yeah, he called 5-0.
No,
yeah,
that's ridiculous.
On Twitter, yeah, he did it. It was funny. He went, "Oh, what?" Because he's usually so shit, bless him, Jack, at these things. But he actually called it, and he couldn't believe it got recorded on a video. But yeah, so yeah, he's had an interesting week, hasn't he, old Sam? But I mean, with Sam, Sam had a plan, so to speak, and he got us up, and it wasn't exciting, it wasn't pretty, but it was effective. And Moisey is got a similar sort of feel about it in my respect, in terms of how I think about it, because he's bringing in. You can see the types of players he wants to bring in. You can see how they're working for the team. He's getting a tune out of people like Masuaku and Antonio and Cresswell, the same way he got a tune out of Arnautovic as well. And as you said, they all seem to like him. Like when Deck scored that thunderbolt last season, the first person he ran over to hug was Davy Moyes. So I just think he's a really, really. I think he's what we need. He's what we need.
Yeah, completely. I mean, but that Declan Rice celebration as well kind of summed it up for me in terms of, how he's cultivated such a positive dressing room atmosphere. And, we as fans obviously know that everything at the club is certainly not perfect at the moment, but at least on the pitch, I think Moyes is focusing on pitch, on the sort of what's going on the pitch. And to that extent, he's done very well. But it's funny how you kind of compare him to Big Sam, because I've always been quite a big admirer of Big Sam. I mean, he's not necessarily the most exciting manager in the world, but he's I mean, you've got to give him credit. He always goes into these clubs. I mean, he did it with us, got us promoted. But he goes into these clubs and just, keeps them on solid footing. And it's quite surprising sort of talking to people that it doesn't seem like he gets the sort of respect that I expect he would have, considering he kind of got us promoted and got us into the Premier League and kept our status. So it's interesting. I mean, I think West Brom, getting on a bit of a tangent here, I don't want to talk too much about West Brom, but I think it's definitely a sign that, they're looking for someone to kind of steady the ships, especially with sort of quite a turbulent start to the season. And I think he'll do well at West Brom, to be fair.
I think he will. I think it's an ideal club for him, to be honest, in terms of him getting back into the game, so to speak. I think it was probably about 3 or 4 weeks too late, to be honest. Which be interesting, because obviously he's got this sort of like accolade that he's never been relegated. So part of me thinks he's probably gonna, if he is gonna get relegated, he's gonna sort of leave the last week, so still have that accolade. He's never been relegated as a manager, but yeah, I mean he's a good manager. I mean, I just think I agree. I don't think he ever got the. I think when it's hindsight, isn't it? When you look back. During when you're in the sort of the Allardyce era, so to speak, it's always like, oh, it's boring football, and then you look at somewhere like Pellegrini, where they wanted to play attractive football, and it didn't really suit West Ham's Arsenal personnel. And you're thinking, actually, I wouldn't want to having Allardyce back, just to have some solidity. It's always like what you can't always get what you want, but and so I just think I totally agree. I just think he has the. What's the word? Sort of the accolades that he should. He's always seen as, Big Sam's coming back. Big Sam. But as you said, he's done a job wherever he's gone. And Maybe not to the extent that people want him to, because I think people think, oh, yeah, a glamorous manager is going to come in through the front door. He could have been Arsenal. He could have gone to Arsenal.
Imagine that. Honestly, that would have been unbelievable. But it's funny because I saw the other day that apparently Big Sam is thinking about bringing Andy Carroll to West Brom. I don't know how true that's going to be, but I mean, it's amazing how much he believes in those players. I mean, the amount of players that we got from Bolton during that promotion season, or some of his former Bolton players, like Matty Taylor, Kev Nolan, Joey O'Brien, honestly, it works because he cultivates a very kind of strong dressing room, and I think he'll do all right. But in terms of West Ham, I think he was disrespected by the fans without doubt, at least from what I've spoken to people about.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. No, I understand that. Yeah, I think you're right. I think he does. I think it was one of those things where I think he was he wasn't he wasn't a West Ham manager, but to be honest, he got us promoted. And we were in the right shit when he took over. We'd just been relegated, and he managed to galvanise a team. He brought in the right players to do the job, and there was a plan. He had a plan, and it worked. And it might not be the most glamorous plan, but then again, not being funny, he went and got bloody, people like Ricardo Vastey and people like that. When it's at Bolton, he had JJ Kocher and stuff like that. It's not like he didn't. They weren't all like workman-like players. They were proper like. They were just, they were good players. You know what I mean? So anyway, let's talk less about it. It's not a Big Sam podcast today. Anyway, so Charles, why are you a West Ham fan? Why are you a West Ham fan, man?
Well, my dad has always been a very sort of ardent support of West Ham. He's supported West Ham for over 50 years now, and he definitely was a big part in my upbringing, kind of my West Ham sort of odyssey, if you will. But it's funny because when I was a little kid, I had a really big love for Man United. And they were obviously great back then. Lots of Beckham, Ronaldo, Giggsy, Scholes, all them lot. So I enjoyed watching them and kind of keeping tabs with them. But whenever my dad had West Ham on TV, I just couldn't help but be sort of drawn into it. I remember sort of when West Ham were in the Championship in sort of 2003. Watching the games on TV with Dad and just being like, "Oh, go on, West Ham, go on!" Yeah. And so there was always that kind of link between the family and West Ham in that sense. And then I eventually went to my first game of football at Upton Park. It was against Derby County in the Championship, and it was the deadest, most boring 0-0 draw ever. But I just love being there, and I just loved it, and I loved the culture, and I just love how much the fans were with the team, and I think from that day I was like, yeah, I've got to be a West Ham fan, and then I went very soon after that to the playoffs against Preston, and obviously that was an amazing game, and so eventually I was just like, well, I'm a West Ham fan. It's in my blood. Like it's got to be done. I've got to be the West Ham fan that my dad wants me to be. And it's funny because my brother, he's 19 now, but he was a Chelsea fan growing up, and we've managed to kind of switch into the dark side as well. So I think we're doing a good job of recruiting a lot of West Ham fans in our family.
I mean, poor bugger. He could have easily a Champions League victory or whatever, and Premier Leagues, but no, he's got Championship playoffs and stuff like that to contend with. And
amazing.
And actually, that Derby game, was 2004, 2005, something like that, isn't it?
Something like that, yeah.
I can't remember specifically. I believe that was the one that they shot Green Street at.
No,
yeah, I'm pretty sure Elijah Wood was in that game. So and I'm pretty sure it was Derby. It was that season, definitely, because Elijah and because obviously where I was, because we knew they were there, and it was down by Bobby Moore lower, and there was like a group of them, and I think it was a 0-0, and I think it was like recorded as like a 2-0 victory in Green Street, because they get them going up and celebrating all these goals. But I'm pretty sure it was Derby. So that is, if it's true, then I don't think I made that up. Then that's an accolade.
Part of history, part of movie history. I love that.
Green Street, the film, yeah. I think that came out in like 2004, about 2005 as well. So that would have been, it must have been that game. How weird. Anyway,
it's weird.
And that's the thing with West Ham. And once you're in, isn't it? Really. And so, as you said, once you saw that first game, all the atmosphere and stuff like that, you were then part of it. There's no turning around and going back home and becoming a Chelsea supporter. Really, was there?
No, not at all. I mean, even when I was watching Man U and, when I was little, I was just like, oh, it's just so boring. Like, at least with West Ham, there's drama,
so boring, winning
there's
all the
excitement.
Time. Yeah.
It must be. But nowadays, all they do is complain about losing. So, yeah. I mean, but, West Ham, there's no doubt that West Ham just had something special about them. I think fans around the world or fans of every club know about the kind of culture that West Ham has, and
definitely,
I feel like I've chosen the best option despite all the accolades that I could have missed out on celebrating. So, hopefully one day we'll get there ourselves. But
well, we think that
we always say that, don't we?
But it's one of those things as well. If I think it's character building being a West Ham fan, particularly for a young kid. In that, my daughter, she's 8, and she goes, oh, when I come in and they haven't won, they never win much, do they, Daddy? And I go, no, they don't. But when they do, it means so much more. Or if they get, like as you said, like the Tottenham game, a hard fought 3-3 draw, it means so much more. And I think that's the really, really important thing about being a West Ham fan. I think that's why we're so unusual as a bunch of fans, because we have these sort of crazy dedicated, nucleus of fans, and we've won bugger all. Do you know what I mean? It's like, at least you're like a Liverpool fan, or you had the good days, you had the shit days, now you're back to the good days. Man United, same. Chelsea, Tottenham, Arsenal, you go through the list and they've all had sort of some sort of success. Everton, had success, and then it comes to West Ham, and we're like the next one down. It's like, we've won fuck off since 1980, but sorry, the Intertoto Cup in 1990.
We won the playoff finals in 2012, so I guess that counts.
2005, the final of 2006 FA Cup final. Apart from that, and the Intertoto Cup in 1999, we've won. So it's a strange thing, isn't it? It's this small little club in a weird little club in East London has this sort of diehard like fan base across the world, and doing obviously the West Ham way stuff. The people that come on and listen and participate from all over the world. And I was a little bit naive to that, I think, before I started doing the channel. But we had this crazily passionate foreign base of fans. It's just a global fan base. It's weird when you think about it, because they could have picked any team. You said
it is, isn't it? And I think, like, I mean, for sure, especially when we get sort of like, these dazzling foreign players come over and play amazing, like, Di Canio and Tevez, and, they kind of bring along their fans as well, and they become part of the culture as well. And it's great to see West Ham as, as one of those teams where you can go to almost any country and people there will support them, despite their despite how sort of non-successful they are. But and I think that is, I do love it when sort of people around the world are chiming in, because it just proves, just like you say, that West Ham has had an impact around the globe. And I think it was when we went on the I think we had the Asia tour a year or two ago. Yeah. And it's just amazing. It's like seeing so many fans of West Ham there, and it feels good that we're appreciated, even if we're not highly regarded. So, it's
one of those things as well. It's like, with like, as you said, like, the Argentinian fans came in, or when we saw in Chicharito, and lots of Mexican fans, Hispanic fans came, and we had like a Hispanic version of the website. And now, obviously, with Barama, all the we have a new influx of Algerian fans and stuff like that. You're right; it sort of opens up to a new audience, isn't it? It's true, it's like, with Tottenham and Son and the whole sort of Korean audience and stuff, and how massive that is. It just adds a new flavour to the fan base, doesn't it, really? And obviously you see it's for the West Ham way stuff, because different types of people are communicating in the chat and stuff. And I just find it fascinating. I just find the whole thing fascinating, how someone could be so passionate.
Well, I mean, it's like what you said about Green Street as well. Like, you know, that introduced a whole, like, you know, a massive nation of, you know, America to West Ham fans. I mean, the amount of Americans that you know I hear from saying like, oh yeah, I fell in love with West Ham because of Green Street. I mean, it makes me laugh because obviously, you know, Green Street the movie. But it's great as well because, you know, they get a sense of kind of what you know, what the kind of culture of the club is about. I mean, obviously we don't go out fighting every weekend or anything like that, but I mean, you know, there is passion there. I think people like to see that, and you know, so I think especially during the derbies as well, you know, that Tottenham game, like you say, I mean, it's crazy what a 3-3 draw against Tottenham, the emotions that it can sort of bring out in you. So it is great to be a West Ham fan, and you know, we all seem to get a bit negative at times. I mean, I certainly do, but you know, I wouldn't choose any other club. It's a great community, and yeah, I'm a hammer till I die for sure.
Yeah, exactly, and it keeps us entertained. And I mean, there's a reason why there's so many West Ham YouTube channels, because there's so much to talk about. Do you know what I mean? It's like I feel sorry for like a Southampton fan. You know, what do they talk about? You know, they got a manager, apart from the fact that their managers had to self-isolate and was interviewed on a toilet, it seemed yesterday. Apart from that, do you know what I mean? It's like there's always something to talk about West Ham. There's always, and you're right. It's like because we've been hardened by having not won bugger all for 40 years. We can't enjoy the highs as much as we can because we know the low is going to happen. We know that speed bump in the road, that 3-0 loss to Burnley, whatever, is around the corner. We know it is. But so it's like, you know, it's like that Lanzini goal. You know, as soon as that Lanzini goal, it's like, yes, wow, it's amazing. 3-0 in like, you know, was it 12 minutes? Incredible. And then we're literally in the same breath on Twitter, someone's gone, oh, we shouldn't have been 3-0 down after 15 minutes. You know, just enjoy it. Just enjoy it. Come on. All this crap at the moment, so you might as well enjoy your highs when you can, because, you know, if anything's proven like over the last sort of 10 months or whatever, that, you know, you can't. You know, you just got to live for the moment, and I think that's what we need to do more of as West Ham fans. Is when we play well, You know, well done. You know, it's all. And I think there has been less negativity. I think across sort of social media, there's always been a lot of negativity, but there has definitely been less. I think this season. I think because just from my sort of perspective, considering particularly against last season, for example, and. Yeah, just enjoy it while I can, you know. It doesn't
exactly. I mean, like you say, I mean, social media. I mean, the trouble is with Twitter. I mean, it is for me, it's so addictive because, like, it's like these little sort of nuggets of information that you receive, and you know, a lot of the time, as a West Ham fan, you obviously see a lot of negativity. I mean, across the platform as well, but I mean, for the majority, like you say, I think recently has been a little bit of a respite where we've kind of just had a bit of a breather. I mean, obviously there's a lot going on behind the scenes that people are furious about, but like in terms of actual on the pitch matters, it's refreshing for people to not be on the back of the players, for instance. I mean, you know, just look at last night with Craig Dawson. I mean, everyone was just writing him off, and like, I was for sure. I mean, I was taking the mick out of him every opportunity I could. But you know, he's gone out there, he's done a job, and you know, fair dues to him, credit to him, because you know, to have all that sort of kind of negativity piled on him, you know, I don't know whether he pays attention to it or not, but he's obviously done a really solid job, and to get a clean sheet against a really top team. So, you know, fair dues to him, and it's nice to see that people are respecting that and say, well done, take my hat off to you.
Exactly. I mean, and then everyone's like, yeah, I'll eat humble pie. You know, but you know, he was yesterday. He was solid, a really solid player. He played really well. He was barking that defense around as well, which is great to hear. I mean, he's been around the block. Do you know what I mean? And so, I mean, wasn't it? He's never had. Someone said he's never on his like stats, he's never made a mistake which led to a goal ever in his career, or something ridiculous.
Nearly in the first 10 minutes of yesterday, he knew that was offside. He knew it was offside.
But that's such a West Ham thing, wouldn't it? It's like, you know, Southampton, I don't think, have won their last game of the for the calendar year since 2010 or something like that. It's like enter West Ham, and so it could be like, Craig Dawson has never made a mistake which led to a goal. 10 minutes into his West Ham career, and then he always kicks off Che Adams' head. I mean, if he'd scored, that'd have been. Could you imagine? Like everyone would have been
legendary.
Fair play to him.
Legendary. I mean, I saw on Twitter people were putting bets on him to score, and they nearly came up. It came up with a lot of money, but no. I mean, like honestly, I'm very very happy that he did well, and I think. I like you say, I'm definitely eating humble pie this morning after his performance. I mean, it definitely wasn't, kind of a prime, PK or Puyol or anything like that. But it was a really solid performance and a clean sheet. So
someone even said, I can't remember where it was, might be one of the YouTube channels. Somebody said it was almost Ginger Pele-esque in his performance. Do you know what I mean? Like literally last line. There is something about Craig. There is something a bit veteran about him. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. He's just, he's not like a dynamic, centre back, like, like as you said, like, I don't know, like a Van Dijk or something like that who can play. He's a blocker. He's a blocker. And I thought he did all right. Yesterday. He said against someone like Danny Ings and Che Adams and then Shane Long when he came on.
Oh God, when he came on, I was like, that's a West Ham killer right there. That's a bogey.
He's like
West Ham
Glenn
player.
Murray, isn't he? Shane Long.
Honestly,
he's played. I'd love to have him to have played for us for a couple of seasons a bit earlier in his career. But when he came on, I thought, here we go.
He seems like someone who would inevitably have joined West Ham, even for a small period of time. You would have thought that he would have joined West Ham at one point, but no, he ended up scoring a bunch of goals against us instead. So
exactly, yeah. Well, there's a whole list of them, isn't there? It's like Romelu Lukaku, obviously Glenn Murray, Callum Wilson. There's about 4 or 5 of them. Every time you come on, you go, oh, here we go, and Shane Long's one of them as well. But yeah.
It's easy money, isn't it? It's honestly easy money when you see their names on the team sheet. You're just you're going to bang one against them.
You almost did. Anyway, let's talk about your 11, because I'm sure Craig Dawson has made a late run into it. See, even now, he's taking the piss out of him. But I mean, he did. I don't mean to. He was absolutely. I thought he was really good. I'm just having a giggle. So everyone we have on the channel, we get them to do their 11. You can do whatever criteria you want. The only rule is you have to be alive to have seen them play. That's the only rule. Simple as rule. So I believe you may have a little bit of a theme today, Charles.
I have a little bit of a theme. Obviously, end of the year, we want to get this year over and done with. But generally, we've had a very interesting decade as a West Ham fan. So I thought I would go for my West Ham best 11 of the last decade. So that will be my theme for this week.
I like that. That's good. And I forget, it is the last decade, isn't it? All that's gone in the world, and it's like, we're coming to the end of the 20. We're going into the 2020. You know what I mean? It's really right. Okay, let's start in goal then. Who we got in goal?
Well, in goal, I've got Fabianski. I think in terms of what he's provided us over the last couple of years has been amazing. He's just provided us with a great bit of solidarity in goal. I mean, that first season he played with us, I mean, every time the opposition entered the box, I've never felt so relaxed. He honestly is just such a solid keeper. And I've thought about people like, Adrian and sort of Jaskalainen and people like that. But I mean, overall, I just think the quality that he has and, and what and the sort of stability that he's brought to the team. I mean, we saw what happened when someone like Roberto gets into the team and how many goals we can ship then. And Fab just provides us with that kind of that stability that we need. And, because our defense has been really good of recent, especially, but whenever there's a slip up, you can always rely on Fab to, pull out a great save or something like that. So, I mean, I've got to give him the goalkeeper role because I think he's been phenomenal and certainly the best kind of, I think probably the most talented goalkeeper I've seen. Obviously, Rob Green is up there as a really good goalkeeper as well. But I think Fabianski nicks goalkeeper of the decade for me.
Yeah, and also I think, when you look at, when he was at Swansea, he was always, pretty much player of the season at Swansea. And from a goalkeeper to be player of the season, it shows obviously the detriment of the team, but it's still, despite all that, he's still, revered by the fans and stuff. And I just think I know exactly what you mean. He was in my 11. of my sort of best 11 because I just think, as a goalkeeper, it's all about confidence, and you have confidence in him when he's playing. But he's not playing up shit, with like Randolph, bless him, or someone else. You go, oh, they're not as good as. He's unflappable. Do you know what I mean? He's just like he's one of those guys who and also what I like about him, I like someone like Adrian who would always palm the shot away. If he can catch it, he'll catch it, and that's something that sounds silly, but actually for a lot of goalkeepers, they flap, don't they? They flap it over or put it. He catches it, and he's always very, very secure. And I like the way he distributes it and stuff. And obviously, again, it's a shame that we got him relatively towards the end of his career. He's probably got maybe a season left, maybe season and a half, which is a shame because he would have been our version of Phil Parks or Ludo, or he would have been in goal for 7, 8, 9 years as our first team choice because he's that good. Absolutely solid. Right, okay, Fab's in. Fab for Fab. Right, who is next then, Charles?
Right, so the formation I'm setting up with is a 4-3-3. So 4 at the back. I know West Ham fans will shiver in horror when they hear that as of recent. But I'm going to start with left back.
Yep.
And I'm going to go with Aaron Cresswell. I think Aaron Cresswell has pretty much been sort of the picture of our left back. Yeah. Kind of the icon of our left back of the last decade.
Yeah.
When he came in, I was so excited because he'd been doing really well with Ipswich and just just a really solid sort of youngster from the Championship and almost immediately he was making an impact for us. He had a bit of pace, he had a great whip on his cross, and I think he was just an amazing player coming in and really, he has been a very solid player for us all the way through. I mean, I know a lot of people say that recently he's kind of gone off the ball a bit. I mean, in a sense, he's actually gone through a bit of a rejuvenation in his sort of new positioning.
Yeah.
But I think it's clear to see he's lost sort of a foot or two of pace. But in terms of his overall ability, I think there's no doubt that he's definitely been just a mainstay in the West Ham team for the last 5 or 6 years or so. He seems like a great dressing room presence. Obviously, seems like he gets along with the lads very well in training and everything like that. He's also scored some bangers. I mean, Leicester, that banger was amazing. He scored an amazing free kick against Stoke. Actually a very kind of exciting player to watch when he's on the ball. And obviously, a lot of people kind of recently have gone off him, but I've always been a fan of Aaron Cresswell and also he's got a very tidy haircut as well, so that's a nice little bonus. I always, when he first came, I was like, God, I really want that haircut. He looks really neat and proper. But as you can see now, I'm left with this mop. So
yeah, well, he's got a mop to leave. You know what I mean? But,
that's what I tell my dad.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. It's, and I know what you mean about Chris, and I think he's been around for 6, 7 years, something like that. A long time he's been here now in relatively modern football terms, but. It seems a great dressing room guy, and he's. I think the last sort of 18 months, these crosses, this delivery, it's so much more consistent than it always was. Partly, I think obviously the position he's playing now, this sort of the back three suits him well, and he has lost a yard of pace, but. He's got injured quite a bit as well, unfortunately, hasn't he? And so, but I just think he's a solid player now. He always has been. He always gives his all. And yeah, it's a good shout. Yeah, I agree. Right, okay, it's you crack on, man. Who's next?
All right, for my 2 centre backs, I'm going to go with 2 relatively big West Ham icons. I'm going to go with Ginger Pele, and I'm going to go with Winston Reid.
Okay.
I think Ginge. I mean, we all love him. We all know how much we love him. Obviously how things ended was heartbreaking for all of us because we just kind of feel like he deserved a lot more in terms of his farewell. But nonetheless, I actually think his West Ham career isn't over yet. I think he will come back in some form as a coach, hopefully one day or something like that. I think he'd do a really bang up job of that. But yeah, I mean, as a player, he was just no nonsense. Just always got his head on the ball, always, first to win the header. And, he gave his all for the club as well. I think alongside Noble, he was, one of the dressing room leaders and someone who really fought for the shirt. And he wasn't the fastest guy by any means, but he just always seemed to put a tackle in against some of the top players in the league, and just his body of work is really impressive, and so he definitely makes the team. And then also you got Winston Reid, who obviously will always be remembered forever in West Ham history for scoring that goal against Man United. We all know where we were when that happened, and so that will always cement his legacy. But I think most impressive from him is just the fact of how he dealt with so many of the issues that he had when he came to the club. He was almost a write-off when we got relegated. I think looking to ship him off and just kind of write him off. But I mean, Championship was a blessing in disguise for him. He came back better than ever, scored that banger against Millwall. Another reason why we'll love him. And to come back from what I've heard is quite dark times and become a mainstay and a big leader of that West Ham team throughout that decade. To be fair, I mean, technically he's still at the club now, but I mean, in terms of what he provided, he was great solid defender. I mean, actually quite nice on the ball and very tidy. Nothing too fancy, but and also scored a few great goals. So I mean, just in terms of his body of work, he definitely deserves a place in the all West Ham, in the best West Ham team of the decade, I think.
Yeah, no, you're totally right. And he said he's technically still at the club, so who knows what's going to happen? But
you never know.
You never know with West Ham, do you? But no, I think I agree with both of them. As you said, I thought unfortunately now it's been indicative throughout football. It's not just recent years with obviously Ginger. And not getting that sort of testimony or whatever. I mean, but you look back at football and West Ham, Billy Bonds finished on 799 games. Steve Potts finished on 499. It's not, I think West Ham, I think fans have more of a sentimental feel than actually the actual football team itself, not necessarily. It's not West Ham, it's not an indicative thing of West Ham, it's indicative thing for football in general. But I agree. I think there will be a role for Ginge somewhere at West Ham eventually. As you said, he does a coaching school and stuff already, doesn't he? So
well, let's hope we see the trio of Noble, Nolan and Collins one day. God, imagine that backroom stuff.
Could you imagine?
Just an absolute monster of a team.
Well. And Jack Collison, because I think Jack's got a job here as well. Right, okay, we'll put them two in. Who's going to be right back then, Charles?
Right back is slightly controversial in terms of positioning, but I think people will agree with me largely that I've included him. I'm going to go with James Tomkins.
Yeah,
he's obviously, we all know him as a centre back. We all know that he's played at centre back, but I remember he actually did play quite a few games for us at right back as well. So I'm going to put James Tomkins in at right back. I think just to kind of realise the impact he had for our team over the last decade, even more because he was coming up through the ranks and everything. The fact that people still say today, God, we shouldn't have got rid of Tomkins. We shouldn't have got rid of Tomkins. Just shows you how solid of a player he really was. And to this day, I'm still a bit baffled by that decision. I was just like, why did we get rid of him? It wasn't a big money deal. It wasn't anything. So, who knows why we got rid of him. But yeah, I mean, just always a solid player, always play for the badge. I mean, there wasn't anything flashy about him, nothing that sort of, stood out, but he was just always a solid player. And, always kind of came up with a few headed goals. And the funny thing is, the biggest memory I have of him is I think it's the West Ham Everton game in the Cup quite a few years ago. I think it might have been the one where Adrian scored the winning penalty. But him and Noble had like a massive bust up on the field. And I don't even think that was the only time they had a bust up. Like, I think they did it in training as well. But for some reason, those two would just always like go at each other and just... But they always play it down. They always put it down to the fact that they're just mates, and that's just how they like interact with each other. So I don't know what's going on there, but yeah, I mean, he was a really solid player for us, and right back sort of has been, I mean, maybe not our strongest position of recent years. I mean, obviously with Soufal, we've been really lucky in terms of what he's brought to the team already. But I mean, you had him on recently. To be fair, Guy Demel, he's obviously been a very solid choice for us. And but yeah, I think Tomkins deserves a place in the team, and so I'm going to fit him in at right back.
Yeah, And we spoke about Big Sam, and I reckon in Jan, I think he's going to get Tomkins in.
Oh,
I reckon he's going to. I reckon he's going to go
amazing.
for him because I don't think he's getting much game time at Crystal Palace at the moment. So
Yeah.
I think he's going to put a bid in for Tomkins. I think that's his type of player, though, isn't it? He loves him.
Oh, it is,
It's
isn't
the
it?
versatility, you know. As you said, and hindsight's a great thing. As soon as we let Tomkins go, I swear, if I remember correctly, we had 2 or 3 times where we had 2 or 3 injuries for centre backs where he would have probably started. Just typical West Ham, you know, hindsight
Honestly.
things. But right, okay, that's
There
your
you
back
go.
4. Let's go into your 3 in midfield. Who's your first one in midfield then, Charles?
My first one in midfield and probably the captain of this team is going to be Kevin Nolan. You know, when we brought him in, when Big Sam brought him in, you know, to come into the Championship, I had mixed feelings. I was sort of like, Kev Nolan, isn't he that really old bloke? Because
Yeah,
he just always seemed like just an old bloke. He was like born an old bloke, you know. And so I was kind of like, okay, well, fair enough. You know, I guess it might work. And it really did. You know, he was just always a massive attacking threat, a great leader on the pitch. You know, I think, like I said earlier, you know, listening to the Guy Demel interview, I think he was saying just how much of a great leader he was for all those
yeah,
boys on the pitch, and you need someone like that to get you out of such a
you
tough
do.
league like the Championship. So I think that tandem of him and Big Sam was instrumental in kind of propelling us up into promotion. But yeah, just always a presence. You know, always getting goals. Really loved the club. I think it's interesting because like I think before that you would always say, oh, he's definitely like a Bolton legend or something like that, you
Yeah.
know. But even I think, you know, even with what he did with West Ham, I think you could definitely consider him as a West Ham man as
Mm.
well, because he's obviously at the club now doing a good job as a coach at the club, and yeah, I've always been a fan of Kev Nolan and what he brought, and yeah, and if he was still playing today, he'd probably still be on a 3-game suspension for his Christmas break. But
Exactly, yeah. Exactly, and that's the thing about Kevin. He's like, you know, I swear he wasn't. I didn't see him on the touchline on the 27th. I don't know if he was around, but I didn't see him there. But yeah, no. And you said he was just such a great player. I just thought he was so instrumental for that us in that time. Do you know what I mean? He was so
yeah,
instrumental, and I think it goes. I think actually it goes when you look back in sort of periods. Him coming in was instrumental to stability of the club at that time. You know, he came in with Sam, and we all had a bit of a joke about it. You know, oh, here we go. But he was brilliant for us, and he was a great captain. And as you said, like Geese said it, we've had loads of people we've interviewed around that time who said what a great captain Kev was. He was the man who was just the guy who was in between Sam and the players. And he was the one that communicated. And that's why Sam obviously got him in, because he did that job well. And yeah, he's doing a great job now, it seems,
yeah,
imparting
definitely.
some of his old school tactics, it seems, you know, particularly at
We'll
corners.
certainly see. Oh God, we're seeing those free kicks come back. God, I want to get rid of them as soon as possible. God,
Yeah,
honestly, those give me anxiety. But yeah, like you said, I think he's just a great leader in that dressing room. And obviously, when Carroll came in, you know, he was pretty instrumental in bringing him in, and that was a
yeah,
massive transfer for us at the time. And I think, you know, him and you know, I think he looked after Carroll when he was at Newcastle, and he sort of had a few kind of teething problems. So the fact that, you know, he was so instrumental that he could bring players of that quality and settle them in really quickly. I think he was just a really, really solid captain for us, and yeah, he definitely gets a place in my decade team.
definitely a good shout. Right, okay, Kev's in. Who is next then, Charles?
Right. Well, I'm going to put a youngster in. I'm going to put Declan Rice in the centre of midfield as well. I'm going for 3 centre midfielders, and I think Rice deserves a place. You know, obviously, I think the best is yet to come from Declan Rice
Yeah,
still. I think we all expect that. I think what he's going to do, I mean, his future at the club, we don't know. We don't know what's going to happen in the future in terms of whether he'll stay or not. We know that I think certainly he's got a massive future in the England team, and I think Noble said the other day as potential captain of the England team. I mean, what
oh
an
yeah,
amazing achievement that would be. But I mean, the maturity this guy has is just unreal. I mean, you know, he's a year younger than me, and he's already accomplished so much. He's already, you know, just such a top bloke. You can see in the interviews just how happy and excited he is to be on the pitch playing Premier League football. It's almost as if he was brought up from the academy like yesterday. Every game he plays, it's like he really wants to be out there running around and playing with all these top players, and really he doesn't look out of place whatsoever. I mean, he's just an amazing talent. Even in his sort of first year or so, when he had a few teething problems, he just still looked like a really solid player. And now you rarely even see him make a mistake. He's just that good, and really, he's becoming a bit of a luxury item for us these days. And I'm really hoping that we can keep hold of him, but obviously time will tell whether that happens. But yeah, he cares about the club. I think he'd be a great replacement for Noble as captain. I think he's basically captain already.
Yeah.
So I think the sky's the limit for him. It really is. And like I said, I mean, I'll be heartbroken if he does end up leaving. But for now, I'm very happy that he's with us, and all I'm seeing is a future with Declan Rice. So
exactly.
And for that reason, and hopefully, if he sees this video, he'll want to stay even more. So he's in my decade 11.
I think with Dec, it's incredible, isn't it, when you think about someone when obviously when Mark's not in the team, and I've said this before on the channel a few times, when Mark's not in the team. Oh, Dec's gonna be captain. Yeah, there's no second thought. And the guy's young. He's young. He's a young lad. Considering some of the players he's up against. Corinthians captain. I think Fabianski's captain the Polish side. There's some big names on there, and no, it's gonna be Dec. It's gonna be Dec. And the lad's played over 100 games for us already, and he's just I agree. I think the best is yet to come with Dec. And the thing is, you're seeing definitely this year more attacking, more going forward, more of a box-to-box midfielder than necessarily a sort of a holding role, really. You can see it's a lot more. He wants to drive on a lot more. And him and Souček, they do it's nice. I'm sure they have it sorted. But, one goes forward, one comes back. And you can see with that, it just works. Unfortunately, when Mark's in, it buggers it up a little bit. I think they've already got this fluidity moving with them two already. So, no, I think it's brilliant. I think Dec's amazing player, and I'm. Go on.
Well, I was just going to say, it still seems like there's so much potential there that he hasn't unlocked. You know what I mean? And like you said, the fact that he's gone from this he's gone from, basically a centre-back to holding midfielder, and now he's pushing up even further. So you're just like, God, this guy can do anything. Yeah,
exactly. And what I like about him as well is I watch him walk around the pitch, and he walks around. He doesn't. If you watch him walk, he walks like a teenager. He walks around like he doesn't look like a professional football player when he walks around the pitch. He and then he gets the ball, and it's like, it's so funny. I watched it yesterday. I was like, look at him. He's like, oh God,
when he concedes as well, you just see him go, his mum's told him off or something for playing the music too loud. It's great.
And it's right what you said in terms of that sort of enjoyment, and when he comes across
childlike wonder, isn't it?
Yeah, he's like, oh God, he really feels it like we would feel it if we were playing like Sunday League football, and it's the most important thing to us in the world. He's exactly the same with a Premier League match. It's 2 points lost, and and there's no like airs and graces about him. That's what I really like about Dec. He's like, he doesn't toe the line in terms of, a lot of seasoned professionals will come out and. Doesn't matter what team they've played, how many goals they've scored, how many goals they've let in. The interview is exactly the same, almost word for word. They've been media trained to say the same. Oh well, it's a game of two. Everyone is great. The way he always wipes his nose and his shirt all the time. We interview little things. You'll see it.
He don't care, does he? He don't care. He loves it.
Wipe his nose all the time in his shirt when he's being interviewed. And he walks around like a soldier.
The first few words come out of his mouth in the interview as well is like, I'm buzzing. Whenever it's a win, it's like, I'm buzzing. And it's like, great. It's great. You love it.
It is. It makes you feel like he cares, and he does care. And I as I said, as long as he's here for another couple of years, I think he'll, although people were literally walking him out the door over the summer, weren't they? He's like, when Dec leaves, like, well, he hasn't left yet. Typical West Ham fans, always waiting for the roadblock the speed bump to turn up. But right, okay, we'll put Nolan, we'll put Rice. Yeah, exactly. It will happen eventually. We know it will. It'll be a sad day when it's done. Right, Nolan, Rice. Who's the third one then, Charles?
Well, I really wanted to put Scott Parker in my team, but I just think because he came sort of at the end of that 2010, I'm not going to put him in. I mean, we know how great he is, and loads of people probably put him in their teams as well. So I'm going to go with Cheikhou Kouyate. I'm going to go with Kouyate. It's an interesting choice, but if you think about what he sort of brought to the team, especially in that run in 2015-16, he was actually just such a powerful player in the center of midfield, and someone who sort of had a bit of pace, always went on like a really big run, big daunting run, something like that. Always put tackles in, always win headers, and he was just such a great option in midfield. And I've always criticised the way he runs because it's like mechanically it just doesn't look right. It just doesn't look right the way he moves and everything like that. But for some reason, he was just a really kind of instrumental player during his early days, and obviously sort of that last season he wasn't as good. But just in terms of the memories I have of us playing good football, I see him come up a lot. And just a really solid player, and he's sort of playing as a centre back now at Crystal Palace, and probably suits him a bit more in terms of
I think
his build.
I think he played there when he was in Anderlecht.
Yeah.
I think he played a couple of games for us at centre back. I think.
Yeah,
as
I think
well.
he did.
Definitely, I remember seeing him in London Stadium when they played like a back three, or I'm pretty sure he played. But yeah, I know what you mean. And also, he's a lovely bloke as well. He's a lovely bloke.
Yeah. You can not like him. He was lovely.
Exactly. I had the pleasure of watching of watching a game with him and Diafra Sakho randomly in a. We were playing. It was one of the European qualifiers. We were playing FC Birkirkara. And I was having to do the announcing because our announcer was on holiday. That's how much they cared about the game, and so I was doing the and no one had
Give yourself a bit of credit.
Exactly, no one had helped me with any of the pronunciation because no one knew any of the players' names. And Czech and Diafra were not in the squad; they were sitting like in their civvies next to me. And we were just having a lovely time, having a lovely chat, and they're lovely blokes, and they all were. I mean, at that time, you had like Sakho, you had Czech, you had Alex Song, and and how they would interact with the fans was more than any other bunch of players I've seen. They were fantastic. Those sort of player signings when they do or when they did the open training sessions, they would be there to the end. The last ones they'll be the first ones autographing, the last ones autographing. They loved the fans. They loved the fans. I think maybe because we're a bit more of their upbringing, where they came from, they were maybe more appreciative potentially than say guys who are based mainly in Europe. They obviously came from Africa, and they have this sort of. Honestly, it was incredible to watch them. They were just so lovely, and I always get that clip where he comes up of Czech at the Players Awards when he started singing "Pie." And he's just he seems such a lovely bloke. I think he was a real sort of character in the dressing room as well. But
love it. Yeah, but those sort of core of African players that came in they did such a great job for us, and got such great talent. And I think we see it. We always have Ben Rama now sort of coming over from Algeria. I mean, he's just such a talented player. I think there's so many great technical players over there. And obviously we had quite a few come over during that sort of period, and they all just had a sort of a great effect. They looked like they got on with everyone and just had great footballing ability. So I mean, Kouyate for that reason gets in my team. I know sort of that last season he wasn't as good, but if he always came up with a goal, he was always sort of he's almost like in a sort of way I kind of compare him to Souček a little bit in terms of he kind of had a bit of he kind of had a bit of attacking drive and would sort of always find himself in a scoring position sometimes. I just thought he was a really, really solid player throughout that period that he was here, and I'll always have love for Czech, definitely.
Definitely, no, I totally agree. Right, okay, let's go into your front three then. Who are we going to have first?
Right, front three. So I'm going to have sort of two attacking wingers and then a central forward as well. So I'm going to start with Michail Antonio on the
Yeah,
right wing. Michail Antonio, I mean, God, we're talking about lovable, likable players. I mean, he's
yeah.
about as lovable as they come, isn't he? Really, uh, built like built like a brick wall. Like, I don't know whether you saw him yesterday getting ready, but he's like, he's just all like getting ready. He's just like got this massive muscle. You just like, oh my God, it's
He got that
ridiculous.
water bottle out, didn't he? His hot water bottle under his legs.
Yeah.
That big compared to his legs, He's
Well, the funny thing was is that I don't know whether you saw it, but West Ham released that sort of Gogglebox video the other day. He was just sat there munching popcorn and everything like that, and I was like, "Well, hold on, he's like an absolute beast. Like, how the hell is he staying like that? He's munching popcorn." And then the other day, they cut to him in the clubhouse with like Stratford food or something like that. I was like, "Oh my God!" But yeah,
he has to get the calories. Someone
yeah,
say,
yeah, true.
That's my excuse.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, I'll take up his diet if he sends it to me. But yeah, he's just. I mean, look, he's a beast. He's got pace. He's got strength. Got power. I mean, I was so excited when we got him from Nottingham Forest because I always heard that he was popping up and scoring goals and just being such a big force in that team. So when he came to us, he kind of spent a bit of time on the bench, and then as soon as he broke out, he was just non-stop. I mean, that goal against Tottenham was obviously a big one. We all remember his crazy celebration against Sunderland, and for that matter, any game that he scores against, and that Tottenham game away during their first season at the new Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, obviously cemented in history. He always loved scoring for the record books and everything like that. But yeah, I mean, he's just such a great player, and obviously we've been missing him recently due to injury. He's always had a bit of a dodgy hamstring, but I think that's just because of the sheer power that those legs like have to carry. You know what I mean? I think there's so much tension that gets put on those legs, and so that's why he probably gets injured all the time. But yeah, just an amazing player, amazing guy, and yeah, I think he definitely deserves a place in the team.
Yeah, and I think with Mikel, he's just this. I think because he's come through the lower leagues, he has this sort of real. Again, you can't question his effort. And to be fair, maybe within the last, obviously, he's always been a threat, and obviously since obviously restart last year, he became this sort of goal machine, which is a part of his game, which he never really. I mean, you always get a goal. It wouldn't necessarily be the the main striker, and obviously Moyes has sort of converted into more of a focal striker. But I just think he always gives 100%. Personally, I prefer him on the right where you put him because I think he gives a lot more because. Yeah. In terms of who he's going to be up against, he's going to be up against arguably a smaller defender than a centre back. And obviously, when he obviously played against Villa and he didn't look fit, and he was up against people like Mings, who's like, he could probably match him for strength and probably from pace as well. So, the fullbacks tend to be easier to get through. So, I mean, I think he's great, and he just gives us something different and a different dimension. And why he hasn't been around the England squad just for a plan B, do you know what I mean? He's not Harry Kane, he's not he's a guy you can throw on and just like terrorize the defense, very similar to Traore at Wolves.
I mean, when he's on, he's seriously on. I mean, like you were mentioning about that goal scoring sort of streak after lockdown, he was just banging goals. He was terrifying defenders, and I was just thinking to myself, oh my God, imagine like all these teams around the world having to deal with this entirely different threat, as you say, to Kane, in terms of he just bullies the defenders and just a real powerful person and striker to have, and I mean, just all round, you just got to love him. Really, you got to love the way he plays football. You got to love the way that he always, every single game without failure, has to have a shot going to row Z. It's almost like he's finding his footing, and he's got to boot one into the crowd just before scoring that absolute screamer. But yeah,
he doesn't know he's going to do it half the time. So how can someone defend against someone who doesn't know what he's going to do? So I just think he's great. And power and pace. And he's not skilled, not the most skillful player in the world, but he doesn't need to be because he can just bully past players and stuff.
Exactly.
And I like
and like you say, I do prefer him on the right. I mean, I love the fact that he's playing striker now, and I think he certainly can do a really good job there. But God, I mean, as a winger, he would just be unstoppable in my opinion.
Oh yeah, particularly when he's on his game. Right, okay. And so who's gonna be the next one?
On the other side of the wing, I mean, pretty much the first name on the team sheet, really, Dimitri Payet. Easily the best player I've seen as a West Ham fan live. Just unreal talent, unreal technical ability, unreal set pieces. Just someone. I mean, it's the first time I've ever seen a West Ham player who just gave us like flair. And I was too young to watch someone like Declan play live, and I was obviously I was really gutted that I didn't see him play live because he's one of the biggest legends the club's ever had. And for someone like Payet to come along, it's just like it's kind of like a once in a generation kind of player where you're just like completely in love with his talent and what he does on the pitch. And the fact that he was in Ballon d'Or consideration for that season just proves just how good he was. I mean, the best goal I remember seeing live was the Middlesbrough goal at the London Stadium, where he just ran the whole length of the pitch, beating about 20. It seemed like 20 defenders, but it only ended up being about 5 or 6. But he was just, I mean, that goal was just special to watch because you were just hooked. As soon as he had the ball, you were hooked, and he was just moving and moving and moving. And then as soon as he got to goal, you're like, well, he's finishing this, he's scoring this, and the amount of the memories he provided that season was just unbelievable. And all good things normally come to quite an abrupt end, and obviously it did with him.
Yep.
And obviously we're all gutted about that. But I just think that what he contributed to us will live on in West Ham history. And he was just a phenomenal player. Everyone just adored him. Who knows? Another couple of years, he really might have been kind of like an outright West Ham legend. And but yeah, I mean, it was disappointing the way he left. But there's no doubt that he gets into any sort of 11 that's sort of the last decade for sure.
Yeah, no, I agree totally agree with everything you said. The best player I've ever seen play technically at West Ham, without a shadow of a doubt. Right, okay, so as to who's going to be the striker, who's going to get these goals?
Well, my last man in this team, I had a toss up between these two, and I mean, God, we've had a lot of strikers this decade. Some good, quite a lot not so good. So I'm going to go. It was a toss-up between this player and Arnautovic, but I know how West Ham fans react when Arnautovic's name gets mentioned. So I've actually gone with the other option, and I've gone with Diafra Sakho. Plus, him and Cheikhou link up quite nicely. So I think it's good to have him in the team. Diafra Sakho, I mean, as a finisher, he's potentially one of the best finishers we had in the last in the most sort of recent history of West Ham, and I think he was. I mean, there was obviously that kind of record that he had at West Ham or in the Premier League where he scored like something like 7 consecutive games or something like that. But he was just lethal. He was like, every time he played, I just expected him to get on the score sheet. And yeah, I just think he was probably one of our best finishers. And like I said, he came in with Kouyate and people like that, and just made an instant impact. One of my favourite games is when him and Cheikhou were celebrating after his goal against Man City when we beat them 2-1. I love that game. Was it 3-1? It might have been 3-2. I don't know. Can't remember the result, but I remember Sakho scoring, and him and Czech went over to the corner and like did one of their celebrations. I was just like, God, these two are quality players. But yeah, Sakho was just Sakho for me was just a really good striker. He wasn't necessarily the quickest player or anything like that, but he was just a really good sort of technical finisher. I agree. Obviously, his most memorable goal will probably be that goal during our last game at the Berlin ground, but. He scored a lot of important goals for us, and again, someone who probably kind of his time kind of abruptly came to an end with us. It wasn't sort of like the greatest ending to his West Ham career, but all in all, provided a really good body of work for us. And yeah, he gets my leading role in this team.
Brilliant. No, I love it. No, great shout. I think there's some good names in there, man. Sakho's a good shout. I like, because again, he's like, he doesn't. I think because you're putting sort of that sort of 20, sort of in the decade. I mean, he played quite a few games, scored quite a few decent goals. He said, and probably he did. He always came up with a goal, didn't he, when he was off the bench as well? You'd always when he came on as an option, you thought, we've still got something here. And that's always a good sign of a player. But there we go. See, you've been an hour. You said you've been an hour.
Oh, gone over an hour.
Over an hour. I tell you, it's easily done, man. I think we're talking about Big Sam for 20 minutes. But anyway, Charles, thank you so much for your time, man. It's been lovely chatting to you. It's been really, really fun.
Thanks for having me.
And obviously, thank you to everyone for listening or watching. Wherever you've watched it or listened to it, give it a like, give it a share. And from myself and from Charles, take care, everyone. Stay safe. Wash those hands. Come on, you irons. And we'll see you again very, very soon. Take care, everyone. Much love. See ya. Bye-bye.